All right, so let's keep reading vertically. So now we look at methods. Now, under methods, you want to look for the population, you want to look for the actual variables, you want to look at the instruments that they used, because these are areas where you really can, it helps you um, know if you are using the right tools or using the right method. So first is that the trial design. So the trial design here is a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial at 129 sites in 16 countries in Asia, North America, South America, and so on. So again, a randomized clinical trial is the gold standard when you want to establish causality. That is, that if you want to say that, oh, semaglutide causes a decrease in body weight, you have to do a randomized double blind trial. And they're more expensive. There's a lot of advantages to them, but they're more expensive. The disadvantages, they're more expensive. But usually, because it's multi-center like this, you can essentially, it enables you to generalize a little bit the findings. It's not just in one ethnic group. It's not just in one part of the world. It allows you to make broader conclusions, and of course, helps the company sell the drugs to a broader audience. Um, so, what is the population? So, it's important to define what your population is. So, this is adults 18 years or older. It's key to note that it is people with who have had prior efforts as at unsuccessful dietary efforts to lose weight, and they have either a BMI of 30 or a BMI of 30 with one or more untreated weight-related coexisting conditions. Okay, and furthermore, they also describe the key exclusion criteria. The reason this is important to note is by the time you're looking at several papers, you want to be sure you're comparing apples to apples. If there was another study that also looked at Ozempic or semaglutide and it included diabetic people, then you will not be comparing the same study, the same effects, pretty much. Now the variables. So the variables here that are related to what I am interested in, the primary endpoint is change in body weight from baseline to week 68, the study endpoint. And the goal would be if there's been at least a 5% reduction in body weight. The confirmatory secondary endpoint is waist circumference, quality of life. Again, it means that their primary endpoint for this clinical trial is already clear. That's what the FDA would care the most about. But this complementary secondary endpoints further strengthen their case. I am interested in the quality of life because um, it's important to me, not just that I lose weight. What is the quality of life? Does it enable me to do the things I want to do? And so that's the dependent variable. Okay, that's what changes. What is the independent variable? The thing that the authors chose as the main predictor of the change in the dependent variable. So the independent variable or the explanatory variable here is exposure to 2.5 or 2.4 milligrams weekly of semaglutide versus placebo for 68 weeks. Okay. Now, there are a lot of control variables, and these would be your eligibility criteria as well, and things like the duration. So this is also important because as I read paper to paper, some studies were done for 68 weeks. Some were done for 104 weeks. So it's important that I compare again apples to apples. Now, the weight changes in weight are very easy to measure. You get on a scale, those are quite easy to measure. But things like quality of life are abstract constructs. So it's important to be able to say, do they really measure what they say they're measuring? Like somebody saying an instrument or a survey measures my mood. Well, there must be a way to validate that. So whenever you are looking at constructs that are abstract, you should search for and see where that particular instrument has been validated and quote that information that it is validated or it is not. Why? Anybody can make up questions that they like, but does it really measure what they think it measures? And so this is a screen grab of the quality of life light CT questionnaire. that was used in the study. It asks 20 questions, and you have to rate, on a scale of 1 to 5, one being true, yeah, one being true and five being false, vice versa, five being true and one being false. Um, Answers to these questions. And these questions have been used to make a composite. That is, you sum up. So let's say, for example, for here, if trouble bending over, maybe I said 5, meaning my quality of life is high. I'm tired or winded when I walk up, and I say again, 5, meaning great, I can do that, I'm not tired, and so on and so forth. If I sum that up, it gives me a composite score that gives a construct called physical function, how well the person is functioning physically. And there's another construct for physical, which includes not just your active things, but even whether you have body pain. And then there's another measure for psychosocial, which are these questions. So there is a composite score for physical, a composite score for psychosocial, and there's a composite score for total. But do these questions really measure physical um, wellness? So that's where there are statistical methods to assess this. So reliability is one of them. Is there internal consistency? And the measure used for that is Cronbach's alpha. If it's like, I think it's if it's over zero point 0.7, it's good. So theirs is 0.94. Does it have discriminating ability? That is, do people who have like BMI less than 35, are their scores different significantly from those who have BMI greater versus those who are normal weight? And again, they show that it is. Does it show construct validity? So for construct validity, you compare these composite scores with the composite scores of other validated measures. And so they compared it with this SF36 version 2. So SF, I believe, is it measures also similar to this particular questionnaire, measures like um, physical measures as well as psychosocial measures, and it shows that it is correlated. So R is equal to 0.52. So again, it is it is checking out as a validated measure. Now, I don't need you to do all of these measures of validity. You can just pick one from a Google search about that particular questionnaire, just to let us know is it whether the questionnaire has been validated in any shape or form.